Hey there, true crime friends. Sometimes when I'm telling you a story, I think of a total other side story, and I want to tell you the whole other side story, but I know I need to focus because I have a limited period of time to keep your attention, and then we can talk about true crime. But there are a million other stories I want to tell you. And so I've decided to put all of those stories in like a series of videos that we will be calling Apropos of Nothing, because it doesn't relate to anything. It's just the randomness that pops into my head. And it's a side story that I really want to tell you that I think is fun or interesting or plain ridiculous, but it's not necessarily related to true crime. So this, my friends, is Apropos of Nothing, the Girl Scout story. But first, I want you to hit the like button. I like you. Don't you like me? Please, please, please. Pretty with the cherry on top. Hit the like button, and then we can get on to our story. And then at the end, you can decide whether or not you want to subscribe. I hope that answer is yes, but it is what it is, child. It is what it is. So look, the Girl Scout story. The other day when I was talking about something else, I think I was talking about an episode of Snapped and how this lady learned to make like stuff that would catch on fire in the Girl Scouts. And I was like, is she shading the Girl Scouts? You cannot be talking bad about the Girl Scouts of America. They have those cookies. They have those green uniforms. What's not to like? And you can get all them little patches. So when I was a wee toddler, older than a brownie, but not yet, I don't know what old Girl Scouts are called, but I was like a regular age Girl Scout, maybe 9 or 10, right? And my mother was like, okay, so you and your sister are going to join the Girl Scouts. And I was like, why? Because I was a little bit cynical as a child. I know it does not seem like it now. I have a child who spends all of his time, every waking moment, giving me side eye. He's just like, she up to now? Like, constantly. I adore him. I mean, listen, I adore all of my kids, but like, you know how if you have a bunch of kids, some of them are more like you than others. And I have 4,000 kids. Okay, I have 4, but it seems like 4,000 sometimes. This one child is so much like me, it is scary. And so I relate to him. Also, he gets on my nerves. But my mother was like, I'm going to put you girls in the Girl Scouts. Me and my sister was like, yay, we're going to go to Girl Scouts. And I was like, why do we have to go to the Girl Scouts? I really don't see the point. Keep in mind, I'm 9 or maybe 10, but certainly not much older than that. And she's like, no, it's going to be wonderful. You'll meet other girls. You'll learn to do crafts or whatever. And I was like, I don't need to do none of that. And she was just like, okay, so every Tuesday you're going to go and you're going to go to this spot and you're going to sit and you're going to do like Girl Scout-y things. And I was just like, here's my theory, right? And it's a theory that I held for a long time through my life, particularly as a child, though, because as a child, you don't have power over nothing. But I was like, I got to figure out a way to work this situation so I can do what I want while not making the adults mad. And so my mother really wanted me to go to Girl Scouts. Honestly, I think she just wanted 2 hours free from these kids. She was a single parent and she was a high-powered executive over at the phone company. Sometimes she needed a down minute. And so she was like, look, I'm going to dump these kids off in Girl Scouts for $3 a week or whatever it costs. I don't know how much it costs because I was a child. She could just like sit back, read a book, enjoy some Columbo, and not be bothered by these kids always asking her questions. And that other one always rolling her eyes at her. I was the eye roller. So anyway, so we go to Girl Scouts and I'm looking around and I was like, these don't seem like people I would be friends with. Only I didn't say that out loud. That's what I said in my head. And I was like, we had to make this thing called a sit-up-on. It was like the first Girl Scout meeting, right? And they're like, girls, we're going to get together and we're going to make something called a sit-up-on. And I was thinking, that is the stupidest name I ever heard of in my life. A sit-up-on was something you could sit up on while you sat on the floor. And I'm thinking to myself, child, I was bougie back then. I was like, I don't think I need to sit on this floor. My polyester pants might get dirty because, you know, it was the 70s and everybody wore polyester pants. And I was just like, my brightly colored polyester pants don't need to be on this dirty floor. Y'all don't have chairs? In my head, of course, right? So they were like, okay, girls, come and get a stack of newspaper. I'm sorry, what? My sit-up-on is going to have newspaper in it? This does not seem like a very posh establishment. I would like to speak to the manager. in my head. So they said, get yourself a stack of newspapers. And all the girls took like a little stack of newspapers. And I took a big giant stack of newspapers, because if I was going to sit up on it, I was going to sit above the mother heifers on their little skinny sit-up-ons, right? So I get my big stack of newspapers, and everybody has a little tiny stack of newspapers. And then they give us old shower curtains. Why are we working with shower curtains? I did not appreciate a shower curtain as a medium, but I was not in charge, because keep in mind, I'm 9. So they were like, okay, you basically make like a pillow, right? A sit-up-on is a shower curtain, that is sewn, glued, whatever. The edges are glued together, and then you put flat newspaper in it, and then you seal the other side, and then you can sit up on that, and your polyester pants don't get dirty. Well, first of all, this is a horrible idea. Number 1, the shower curtain is plastic. Number 2, it's ugly. It was yellow, if I recall. I did not appreciate it. It had an ugly pattern. And then if I sit with my polyester pants on this linoleum floor on a plastic shower curtain, that's going to be a lot of sweat and discomfort, even though I would be sitting higher than them other heifers who was not smart enough to get a fat sit-up-on. Why would, in my mind, I'm thinking we could crumble up the newspaper and then it would be at least a little bit fluffy. But the Girl Scout leader was in charge, and she was giving directions, and I was like, okay, we're gonna see how this goes. So everybody is making their sit-up-on, and I'm rolling my eyes at them and looking at them with all the side-eye in the world. Turns out the famous GRI side-eye was in the house back in 1979. So I was just like, okay. So I make my real fat sit-up-on, right? So obviously I'm sitting higher than the other girls. I'm not super tall right now, right? If I stand real tall and straight, I'm 5'2", tiny. So as a 9-year-old, I was super tiny. I was also fat. I was wide, but I was short. So I was like, I'm gonna have to stand real tall. This Girl Scout thing might help my posture, right? Because I'm gonna learn to stand real tall so I can be above these heifers who are somehow happy with a thin newspaper and shower curtain sit-up-on. I felt like mine should have velvet, but no velvet was available. So I made a big fat sit-up-on. Little downside to my plan. Turns out, if you put a whole bunch of newspaper inside of a flimsy shower curtain and then sew it together in some half-ass method that they had come up with that I still think was a terrible idea, it's gonna break. So I made my fat sit-up-on, and the leader was like, oh, Kathy, I think that's too much newspaper. And I said, mm-hmm. And I kept sewing. And she was like, Kathy, I think you should use less newspaper. And I was just like, okay. And so she took some of my newspaper away, and when she was not looking, I went and got it back, and I put it back in my sit-up-on, and then I sewed the clothes sewed the clothes so she couldn't see, because she needed to mind her business as far as I was concerned. So we put our sit-up-ons in a circle, and we sat in a circle, and she said, oh, yours is higher. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. What we gonna do now, heifer? I made the sit-up-on. What you want from me, right? And so she had some other ridiculous craft idea, and I thought to myself, no. And so I did not do it. And so she was like, well, don't you want to do the craft? And I just said, nothing. Paid her dust as a 9-year-old. And so my sister, who was like, we're gonna make sit-up-ons, and oh, everybody loved her. Oh, so annoying. So my mother comes to pick us up after 2 hours, and I was thinking, praise God, I am being sprung from this land of like mediocre Girl Scouts and sit-up-ons. And my mother was like, how did it go? My sister's like, oh my God, we had so much fun. We made sit-up-ons. It's like, Kathy, what did you think? And this is me. Can we go home? And she was just like, well, you didn't have fun at Girl Scouts? And I was like, no. And so they went to pick up my sit-up-on, but because it was so fat, it like the paper shifted and it ripped, and my newspaper fell out everywhere because the sewing, they said that my sewing was not good. Honestly, I think the materials were shabby, but I was not in charge because, as I mentioned, I was 9, might have been 8. I was young. So the next week we go back, and here come my raggedy sit-up-on. It's like all falling apart or whatever. Everybody else's look nice. Still, I'm in polyester pants because fashion. And I was like, I need some place to sit. And she was like, well, you have a sit-up-on. And I was like, it's broke. And she was just like, oh, remember when I told you to put less newspaper in it? That's why. And this is my reaction. So she was like, well, just sit it there on the floor and we'll fix it later. And I was like, well, now this heifer has me sitting on a broke sit-upon. This is a broke troop, and I do not want to be here. So all the crafts she told us to do, I didn't refuse because that would be defiant. I just did not do them. And so she was like, so now we're going to do whatever. I don't remember what they were because I thought based on the sit-upon situation, this heifer can sit up on my... I ain't have time for her. So I was not defiant exactly. I just refused to do anything. And so the third week, I just brought a book and sat and read because I enjoyed a good chapter book. Ooh, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Mom, the Wolfman in Me. I was reading like big, thick, not just like kid chapter books. I read adult fiction. As an 8 or 9-year-old, I was a very prolific reader because also this was some bullshit as far as I was concerned. So by the third or fourth week, my mother is like living her best life. She was just like, oh, it's time for Girl Scouts. She loved Girl Scouts. And my sister was just like, I got these 12 badges. And they were like, Kathy, did you get any badges? And this was me. So the Girl Scout leader was like, I don't think that Kathy is cut out, but she might not be ready. She's a little young. My mother was like, she's ready. She's not going in there. And I was just like, I don't want to go. And so for several weeks, I would go and I would just sit and read my books because clearly what they was doing was some garbage anyway. Why would I waste my time? My sit-upon is broken. All these girls are idiots. They're so easily pleased. Their standards are too low. Why am I among these people? Keep in mind, these were people from my church. So it's not like it was strangers. It was people I knew, but I was supposed to bond with them and get to know them better. I did not need to know them. So the Girl Scout leader suggested that I not come back. And I was like, great. Peace out. Look, you can go and throw that sit-upon in the trash, that pile of newspapers and whatever, because now my polyester pants going to stay clean, and I'm not going to be bothered with you. Oh, my mother was mad. And she was like, how did you get kicked out of Girl Scouts? I said, I did not get kicked out of Girl Scouts. I was reading my book. She said, you didn't follow directions. You didn't do blah, 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 blah. I don't know what she said because I was still busy reading. And then so when she stopped talking, I just looked up and said, what? And she was just like, go to your room. And I thought, perfect. I could go sit on my nice, comfortable bed in my panties in my nightgown, and I could sit crisscross applesauce, and I can read my book, and all y'all can leave me the hell alone, and I don't have to be bothered with them low-rent Girl Scouts. And so I did not go back to Girl Scouts. And so I don't know what my mother did while I was sitting quietly in my room reading my books, and my sister tromped herself off to the Girl Scouts. Good for her. Ain't got nothing to do with me. That was Girl Scout troop number 1. So I wasn't kicked out. They just recommended that I not return, and I agreed. Worked out. So a couple years later, same church, different people, because, you know, churches tend to be transient. New people come, people move away, whatever. So I'm a little bit older. They have a nicer facility. There are chairs. None of them trifling sit-up-ons. I would bet you $1. All them sit-up-ons fell apart because ew. So we go, and they're just like, okay. So now I'm in a group of different girls. Some are the same, but like a lot of different girls. And I'm like, okay, what we gonna do here? So they gave everybody jobs. And I was like maybe 12, right? So I'm like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed a little bit more, but not that much. So I was in charge of songs. I don't know how I got to be in charge of songs, but I was in charge of songs. And every week I was supposed to choose 2 songs to teach to the group. Well, number 1, I'm not a good singer. Number 2, I did not like public attention. Number 3, I certainly did not want to sing publicly. It was like karaoke before karaoke. By the way, why do people love karaoke? It is horrible. Absolutely the worst thing in the world, in my opinion, but maybe because I don't drink. If I were like whacked out of my mind on drugs and alcohol, karaoke might be delightful. But for me, I'm like, oh, people publicly humiliating themselves in front of a microphone. Terrific. So anyway, I go and I'm supposed to teach them this land is your land. So I sing through the first verse softly because public singing, and it's only like a group of 12 of us sitting in a circle in chairs. And they were like, okay, so Kathy, what is the song? And I was like, I think we should sing This Land is Your Land. Because I'm thinking I learned this at Spring Mill Bible Camp. Everybody got to know this song. And so I won't be singing by myself. I'll be singing with a group of people. So, I sang the song and they were like, okay, second verse. And I was like, no, I think I'm done. But they knew me by then and they were like, okay, Kathy is done with the song. And they were like, do you have a second song? And I said, I changed my mind. And they were just like, wait, no. You were supposed to bring 2 songs. And I was like, no, I'm not doing 2 songs. But I did sew these things and I would like a sewing patch, please. And thank you. I read all the instructions in the book. I did everything it said you were supposed to do. And so I did all the stuff. And so I would like my badge, please. And they were just like, well, no, that's not how that works. We haven't started working on badges yet. And I was like, but I did the things in the book. I read the book because I read the rule book. I always read the rule book. So I know exactly what I'm supposed to do also, so I can mine the whole situation for loopholes so I can figure out ways to do what I want to do without running afoul of the rules like one does. So I was like, but I sewed. I knew how to sew. I've been sewing since I'm 6. I could sew before I could read. And I was thinking to myself, why didn't I bring a chapter book to this mess? The sit-up-on debacle should have taught me something. All these people is idiots. I'm supposed to be doing karaoke. I don't like this. And so some girl said something to me. I don't recall what it was. I did not like her attitude. And so I told her about herself. But at that time, I think I was only, the first time they left me there for like 4 weeks. I was like doing a 4-week bid. Child, I had to do a bullet. So, the second time they said to my mother after the first and second meeting, yeah, we still don't think she's ready for Girl Scouts. And my mother was like, what? I was over there soaking in a Calgon take me away bath while these heifers got dropped off at Girl Scouts. And they were like, yeah, we don't think Kathy is ready yet. And my mother was so mad. She was like, I don't remember what she said. I remember she was talking through her teeth. Though. Let me tell you something. So I sat there, made my eyes real big, and one single tear. And I was a very sensitive child. So sensitive that if I got upset, I would cry. If I would cry, I would overheat. If I overheated, my nose would bleed. It was like a magic trick. So my mother was just like, you need to go in there. And then I was like, and so she was like, don't cry. Do not cry. I'm telling you right now. So the more she told me not to cry, the more upsetting it was to me. And the more I cried, and then here come the blood. And so she was just like, just go get in the car. And I was thinking to myself, perfect. Somebody got a tissue around here? And so I went and got a tissue and I dried off all the little blood. And then I did not have to go back to Girl Scouts. Now, was I kicked out? No. They determined I was not ready. I agreed. So all I'm saying is no shade to the Girl Scouts. For those who are Scouts, they teach wonderful, wonderful things. Girl Scouts, not for me. Okay. I really need to go jump in the shower. I hope you have a lovely day. Maybe we'll get together another time and do another apropos of nothing. Because, child, I got some stories about these kids. Oof. I honestly think that they're trying to run me out of here, trying to drive me right out of my mind. But they don't know. They dealing with a professional. I've been driving people crazy for 50 years now. They only like in their 20s and some of them are teenagers. They playing checkers. This bitch playing chess. All right. Y'all have a great day and I will talk to you soon. Bye.